Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on Dwarf Fortress coming from Toady1 and Kitfox. A day before the time of recording, Bay 12 Games released some footage of Adventure Mode Combat. This was Tarn playing the game in real time, showing the new graphics and the new UI. In this video I'm going to be taking that footage, I'm going to be showing a little bit of it, then freeze framing it, talking about it, and comparing to what the old UI equivalent looked like. My goal for this video is to show some things that I think either are not in the UI yet, or I think seem to be missing, or are simply displayed in a way that isn't immediately obvious as to where they are hiding. Let's dive in.
Okay, so here I am in adventure mode. This is traveling with my little group of adventurers out to a bandit camp that's out in these hills here off the road.
So this is the world map, and this is the first spot I would like to stop and talk. Now, the first thing I need to mention is, as you can see in the very middle of this video, there's a watermark that says work in progress. This wasn't added by me, this was added by Kitfox. So this is basically stating that everything here is subject to change. None of this is absolutely final, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, what you're seeing right now is an example of a similar screenshot of me walking around in classic adventure mode in ASCII. Now, if I jump back to Tarn's screenshot, we can see down in the bottom left, we do have the name and of the location that we are currently looking at, and we have a book there. Now, that book is probably going to be the journal, if I had to bet, or the quest log, whatever you prefer to call it. It kind of just displays known events that have happened and known locations where things are. While we do not see that screen in this particular video, it's just worth noting. Over on the right side, based on my reference from an older version, we have stop, tracking, clouds, sneaking, and we have map, and also, of course, a sleep option. The clouds option is interesting because it shows where clouds are on the overworld. This shows off weather. I don't think that option is currently active while we're looking at the screen right now. The reason there is the option to sleep while you're in the zoomed in screen versus on the overworld is you can get attacked while you're sleeping on the overworld. So it's maybe not always the best idea depending on the area that you are currently living in.
And let us stop traveling. Okay, here are my adventurers.
So now Tarn is going to enter a relatively long combat sequence, and I'm going to kind of talk through it, covering all of the UI. However, before they actually enter into the combat sequence, there's a few UI elements that I would like to talk about here real quick. Currently, what you are seeing is the classic UI. Now, there's one thing down at the bottom that I am immediately missing, and that is the speed option. As you can see, it says speed 1.000. That is your 1.0 speed. It implies when you are encumbered that number will get lower, and when you are not encumbered, that number goes up to 1. Of course, you can increase and lower that number by jogging and sprinting, or crawling, which will decrease it even more, but give you a higher stealth score. This number is curiously missing from the UI anywhere. At least I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's behind Tarn's camera, but I'm just not seeing it anywhere. Now, this might seem like an okay thing, and it might be represented by one of the small icons down at the bottom. However, just the straight up number isn't present, which I think is interesting choice at the very least. Now, of course, once again, I will draw your attention to the watermark in the middle of the screen. Who knows what the final UI is going to look like? I mean, we went through so many UI iterations throughout the development of Fortress mode that it kind of stopped even being obvious. I will say that there is that one icon down at the bottom right that says whether or not the character is prone or standing, I assume, because there's the option between the character standing up and then the character flat down, and a few other buttons here. Grab and pick up, our look options, our speak, our perform options, our butcher. I'm assuming that the star is the crafting option, which lets you make very basic tools out of sticks. And then there's the swing sword, which is probably either the combat options or start a combat, then the wrestling option, or the hugging icon, as people like to call it, throwing or firing a throwable weapon or a ranged weapon of sorts, as well as the little kobold icon, which honestly means nothing to me, and the icon right next to it, which also means nothing to me. Over on the left, we do have our other options, one of which Tarn is going to cover later. Of course, there are pets and mounts. There is various checklists. There is what I would assume is probably our diary. The checklists could either be the quest log or the journal or some variation of the two. I'm not entirely sure. And then the one right next to it is the book icon, which is probably the journal or quest log. Then we have the inventory screen. I would assume mounts, and I would assume checking or drawing or putting away weapons. And of course, our tactical options menu, which lets you control all of the characters simultaneously instead of just one character. Another thing that I would like to point out that is conspicuously absent from this version is on the top right of this classic screen. That is the up and down view options. Now, it would make sense that we're not going to have that in Premium. What this little screen does, it lets you see what's directly above and below you. But we could look up and down in Classic by hitting the K key and simply moving the Z level up, but you couldn't see multiple Z levels at a time because the ASCII display would only show the current Z level that you're on, unless you were using Text Will Be Text or one of the other mods that would make the game crash a lot. But now in Premium, we can of course scroll up and down. And the reason this begs a question for me is what are ASCII players going to have? Are they going to have that? Is this a toggleable option, or is it just going to be absent in this version? It hasn't appeared in any of the trailers, so that's why I'm curious. Is the view up and view down options going to be present in the classic version? I'd love to know. The last piece of UI that I would like to ask a question about here relates to getting lost. Over here on the classic screen, you can see there is a icon just south of me. That is my camp, where I'm currently camping with a group of other refugees, actually, because we'd only just started the playthrough here. It says that there are various locations in various directions around me. This gives me a sense of my area around me and where I need to head to. This is another piece of UI that is conspicuously absent in the new UI. I'm sure that this functionality is represented somewhere, it's just a question of where. Is this something I'm going to need to click on? Is it going to be underneath a hotkey, or will it simply populate outside of combat? I don't actually know, so I'd love to ask that question and figure out an answer here. Because regardless of what screenshot I show of Classic, that UI is present. Let's dive into the combat screens.
They're all screaming. Okay, let's finally get into the action here. Okay, so this person, someone shot at my human friend and they blocked it. Okay, so someone attacked and I jumped away. So now here what I can do is click the attack button, and we see that this goblin axeman is attacking me with an iron great axe. I've got all kinds of options with my character here. I can parry, block, dodge, strike, wrestle. And since they're attacking me with a great axe and I'm good at parrying, let's go ahead and parry.
Now, I wasn't able to get a parry option right off the bat, but here is my comparison to the way this UI looks. If I move from that screen that Tarn was on right when I paused the video, you'll see this screen. This shows all of the different options and places that you can actually attack your opponent. And when you're attacking the opponent, it gives you a list of hotkeys that you can simply tap to attack in that location, and also it shows exactly the difficulty and whether or not you have a chance to hit. The game doesn't give you exact percentage numbers like XCOM, but it does give you pretty clear indicators as to whether or not you will hit them in that location. For some comparison, here is the old version of that UI. Once you have selected what you want to hit, it then gives you how you want to hit them. So in this case, I'm using a battle axe in the old UI while Tarn is using a sword in the new UI. You can see that you can select whether or not you would like to slash. On the old UI, you would not have to page through the different screens because they'd all fit on one. And in the new UI, you will simply click that little scroll wheel on the right to move it up and down. You can also choose whether or not it's a quick or a slow attack and basically the preciseness of the attack. However, doing something like that might leave you vulnerable for an extended period of time. From there, Tarn chooses to do a dodge roll out of the way using the context-sensitive menu, and this menu is interesting because it's not like anything previously in adventure mode. There are various other menus that are similar to this that have pieces like it, such as the Make Campfire option, which used to be underneath a different hotkey in its own menu, as well as all of the different attacking screens and the conversation screen. So this is basically all of the different options that you have accessible to you at this point. This is a really interesting menu because it is completely new and I have nothing really to compare it with. And then here, he is attacking a different goblin from the initial one that he was attacking, or alternatively, trying a different attack style. So he has the option to strike, wrestle, and dodge, of course. Now over here on the classic UI, you can see that this UI is largely the same. We have the strike, wrestle, and dodge options, although it's telling me that I'm dabbling because I'm bad at dodging, whereas Tarn's Dwarf here is competent, or, if you will, incompetent versus competent. Once Tarn selects the wrestle option, you can actually see that it is fairly similar. I actually recorded a very short piece of video here to show off these similarities. Tarn runs through the combat, and I also run through a similar amount of combat against some poor animal trainer I found in the hillocks.
Pull up my menu, and let's try and wrestle this pikeman. I can grab them with my weapons. Let's try and grab them with an arm. I'm just going to go for the neck. We'll see if I can get this strike. I'm not very good at wrestling, so this might not connect. Got him. All right. So we're wrestling now, and I've got the left lower arm grabbed the neck. So let's pull it up again. I can take them down, throw them. Doesn't look like I can establish a choke here, so let's just throw them on the ground. Okay, so my human friend is stabbing them. So while I've got this goblin pikeman, grabbed around the neck with my arm, that meant that they can't dodge. When you're in wrestling, you can no longer jump away easily. And so my human just ran up. My human friend Ebdi just ran up and stabbed him through with the two-handed sword through the guts. They're also not happy now.
After that, you see Tarn selecting one of two different opponents to attack. This screen also gives you a little bit of extra information. It tells you that they're attacking you with no quarter, meaning they're attempting to kill. It also shows what they're attacking you with, if they are attacking you with something. As you can see in the classic comparison, where I'm fighting with some elves as my human character after my dwarf died, it says I have two lethal options, meaning I could attack them with lethality and potentially get a kill, and it also says the direction one of them is moving next to the activities of the other one. One of the last things I would like to cover here is you can see that there is some animation, which I am highlighting here. Now, this very simple animation is indicating different swipe attacks with different types of weapons. From what I can tell, based on the animations that they showed off previously in an update, they're going to vary based on weapon type. They're very quick, small animations, but I do think that they add quite a lot to the combat. It's also been stated that there is a possibility this could come to Fortress mode at some point. I'm curious, is this something you would like to see in Fortress mode? I know I saw somebody else saying they would like a similar kind of swiping animation on top of workshops as well, and I think that would be a really interesting little addition to the game, if nothing else. Then Tarn kind of shows the panning out of the screen, showing that there is some enemies behind him, and talks briefly about the tactics options. I'll show that footage right now, because it's really hard to show in Classic, to be honest.
Let's assume control of this human if I want. So now I'm controlling the human. They were already in the middle of an attack, so it completed their attack first. Now it's talking about it in the first person as if I'm this human, because I am. And you can see my portrait's also changed. If you want, you can go into tactical mode and control everybody. I don't want to control the wombat person who's run off, so I can turn them off. I can just put them on AI. They'll join the fight unless they chickened out. And so now I can put it on tactical mode, and I can control the human and the dwarf that I have in my party. So this pikeman's recovering. They're pretty sick and so forth. I got a square strike to the head, so I'm just going to try a precision slash and see what I get. Slash him in the head, fractured the skull. They dropped their pike because when I hit them in the head with the two-handed sword, it's heavy enough that their neck twisted and they got spine injuries, so they can't even hold a weapon anymore. That person's out of commission, and I can move down. Now when I move down, because I'm in tactical mode, while that human is moving, my dwarf now can make a move, and arrow flies by.
And now there's one final thing I would like to note. Since you've seen my footage and you've seen Tarn's footage, you probably have noticed the little icons in the Classic. This is a big glowing arrow, essentially, indicating the direction that the enemy is headed. It looks super janky, even for an old school styled ASCII RPG. And this is something that isn't present whatsoever in this footage. However, I would say that it is important because it specifically indicates the direction that your enemy is attacking, or the direction that they were moving after their last attack. And I think that that is something that we are horrifically missing in this footage. I'm really curious if that's going to return in any way. When I initially watched the video, and as seen in my live response video, which is already up on this channel, I kind of assumed that the little dots next to the dwarves and the goblins was that indicator, but upon further inspection, it seems to be an alignment indicator, not a direction indicator, which actually really makes me curious as to if that's going to return in any way, or are we just supposed to infer based on the more readability of the game? Or is this something that's only going to be in ASCII? I think that's more or less everything that I had to state about this update. I think this video is really good. It's really nice to see this footage. I think that a lot of the tweaks are good, and the tweaks that, or changes that either aren't present are probably either still unfinished, or perhaps something that is just changed that maybe I'm not seeing. If I missed anything in this video, or if you think I got anything wrong, please do yell at me in the comments section. I would love to know. And if you like these videos and the type of content that I make here on this YouTube channel, check out my Twitch streams, or watch one of the streams here on YouTube when they go live. They tend to go live around an hour after the streams go live on Twitch, and I try to mirror almost everything I do on this channel. However, on Sunday, I will actually be doing a stream that'll only be on Twitch. It's only going to be for 3 hours on Twitch, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, my normal time, and we'll be raising a little bit of money for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, JDRF, as part of a marathon that they are organizing. So if you'd like to check that out and watch me play some roguelikes and raise some money for a few hours, pop in. We'd love to have you. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.